Hi everyone, William here, and we are in 1915 today. And our recap: in 1935 we had an essay, I guess you would call it, that Dmitri wrote entitled Fathers and Children, that appeared in the Iskra, the Young Russia periodical, and written in, was it written in Russian or French? I don't remember. I translated it actually last year. Anyway, that was the name and that was the theme, Fathers and Children. In 1915, we had the train trip, the departure from Moscow, overnight train, leaving at 9:30. From Moscow to Petrograd with Maria and the elder Yusupos were also on the same train. Okay, we still don't really know anything about Dmitri's return to Petrograd, why that was occurring, why he hadn't even mentioned it earlier in the diaries, not even the day of his departure from Usovo did he mention that he would be going back to Petrograd. Although it was obviously planned, so nothing really mysterious. Our cast for today, we have Maria, we have both of the Lamings, husband and wife, and then we have a whole host of dinner guests at Grand Duke Paul's in Tsarskaya Selo. Okay, so here we go. It's the 5th/the 18th of February in Petrograd, and we have Dmitri's permanent address until the revolution, of course, at 41 Nevsky. Well, actually, he writes it Nevsky 41. It's -6 degrees and windy. So here we go. I woke up on the train around 9 o'clock. I slept surprisingly well. We arrived on time at 9:30. It's significantly colder here than in Moscow. We got into my new car, the Renault. It drives very well and smoothly. Apparently it's fast. At home we had coffee, then simply messed around without anything to do. Before lunch, we went out to buy a developing tub for Maria's little camera. We lunched at the Lamings at 1 o'clock, after which I went to the stables to look at the horses. Everything was in perfect order and they were in excellent shape. Then I stopped by the club and played billiards very badly. I lost, of course. I returned home, developed photos with Maria in the tub, then took the 6:45 to Tsarskaya to have dinner at Papa's. There were lots of people. Serebryakova, Olga Orlova, Paleolog, Olga Kreutz, Bodka, Misha, and others. Overall, it was pretty boring. I took the 11:07 train back and stopped in at the club. I lost again, didn't hit very much, but things were already going better. I stayed until 2 a.m., then went home. Okay, there's something on my glasses. So that was probably a pretty similar day to what we would have found before the war in 1914, Dmitri's life in Petrograd. Although I can't say for sure because I don't have diaries for 1914, only letters, and the letters were written when Dmitri was on his sort of mini grand tour in Europe. Okay, so we find out his address and the palace where he lived. I've heard it called two different names. One is the Sergei Palace because he inherited it from Grand Duke Sergei Alexandrovich, and the other is the Belozerskaya Palace because Sergei, or one of the other members of the imperial family, had bought it from that aristocratic family, the Belozerskis. So, what did Maria inherit from Sergei? I don't know. Apparently not property. Usovo and Ilinskaya and this palace in Petrograd all went to Dmitri, and I guess with the understanding that she had that she was going to be married and leave the country. And of course, all of the jewels and that sort of thing would have been Ella's. So she maybe didn't get as much. I don't know. Maybe if any of you out there know, it would be interesting to hear about that. I don't think Dmitri was driving his new car. He might have been, but I inserted the word driving to replace the Russian word going, because it's not something you say in English. It goes very well and smoothly. You say a car drives smoothly, not goes smoothly. I suppose you could say goes, but I don't like it, so I changed it. The photography hobby was pretty ubiquitous within the Russian royal family, I think. And apparently Maria was getting started with it. She has a little camera, and her brother takes her out to whatever photography shop was nearby, I guess, and they get, I think they're called tubs. I don't know. Like everybody else today, I do like photography, but I just take my photos with my phone. I'm not a serious photographer. But anyway, they buy this, I guess it's called a tub, so that they can do the developing. Yeah, I skipped, the visit to the horses. That's nice. He's been away for a month. We join him on, I think, January 1st in Usovo. So, yeah, he wants to look at his horses. His dog was possibly with him. I don't know. Or maybe he got his dog later. Dmitri always had a dog, though. And Maria speaks about the dog that he had at the time of the Rasputin assassination. So, yeah, he doesn't mention that. He probably had it with him. Maybe. The yacht club. Yeah, the most exclusive gentleman's club in Russia, I believe. Dmitri certainly was not and never would be a yacht aficionado, but that was where he went. And believe me, when he was playing billiards, it was for money. This seems to have been where he got started with what would turn out to be a real addiction for him, which was gambling. So in this instance, playing billiards, not going well. Dmitri just doesn't seem to have much luck at games, whether it's, card games or chess or billiards or golf or you name it. Or at least he always mentions when he loses. Okay, and when I say that when I translate Dmitri saying that they develop photographs in the tub, I don't mean obviously that Dmitri and Maria were, sitting in a bathtub and developing photographs there. You wouldn't want to sit in those chemicals, I'm sure. Okay, and then they go to see Papa. That's the first person. Well, no. They have lunch with the Lamings. So, Laming has been with Dmitri most of the time, but his wife, Maria Nikolaevna, whom, I don't know about Maria, but Dmitri seems to have been really fond of her. And she was, I think both of the Lamings were in their 40s or 50s. So it's mainly, middle-aged people, including when we go to Paul's house. So Paul had this, after his long period of exile from Russia, he'd had this new house built for himself and for his wife, Princess Palais, Olga Palais. They had it built in Tsarskaya Selo. If you look at pictures of him from that time period, he was just about emaciated. He looks very, very ill. I heard somewhere that he had stomach cancer, but I don't know if that's true or not. But he was definitely ill. And the irony is that Prince Gavril survived imprisonment by the Bolsheviks because he had this pulmonary crisis with pneumonia, and they sent him to a hospital, and somehow he was able to get away from there, whereas Paul was, seriously sick the whole time, but he didn't survive. He was kept in prison. I think they took him to the hospital once and then returned him. Maybe they considered him a more important captive since he was actually a Grand Duke, unlike Gabriel. Anyway, we don't have any mention of his wife here, although, Dmitri maybe just assumes that whoever will read his diaries will assume that she was there. We do have an Olga. We have two Olgas. Actually, no, we have three Olgas. Wow, how did they deal with that? We had Olga Vladimirovna, Olga Konstantinovna, and Olga Erikovna. So, Olga Vladimirovna Serebryakova, yeah, I don't know. Serebryakova was her husband, at least her first husband. But if you go on the Russian internet, it says that she married Peter of Oldenburg, who had been divorced by the Tsar's sister, also named Olga. But if you go to the English language internet, that doesn't come up. So I don't know. Maybe some of you can fill me in. Olga Konstantinovna Orlova, I don't know. Another friend of the family, apparently. Maurice Paleolog, you've heard of him. He was the French ambassador to Russia of long standing and through until after the revolution in 1917. And he seems to have been particularly attached to Paul. I mean, not attached in the sense of being one of his staff, obviously, but a friend. And in fact, there's a great scene that's been described by Paleolog himself in his memoirs. Diaries or memoirs? I have the set. It's like a 2 or 3 volume set. Anyway, of meeting with Paul and Dmitri, and Paul and Paleolog urging Dmitri to go and talk to Nicholas, not too far in the future, when Nicholas will sort of suddenly decide that he wants to take over as the commander, the supreme commander of the Russian forces. And Maurice Paleolog and Grand Duke Paul know that Dmitri has some sway with him, and so they ask Dmitri to go and dissuade him. And Dmitri is very nervous about it. Paleolog describes him as chain smoking, so pacing and chain smoking, and so smoking even more than usual, just one after another apparently. And Nicholas is avoiding him because Nicholas knows what subject he's going to bring up. And then when he finally pins Nicholas down and is able to see him, of course Nicholas rejects it, but apparently with no hard feelings against Dmitri, who will be then posted to Nicholas's headquarters. Anyway, Olga Erikovna Pistolkers was Olga, Princess Palay's daughter, so Dmitri's stepsister. Bodya, of course, was Dmitri and Maria's half-brother, Paul's first child with Olga Palay, or what was she before she was Princess Palay? I don't remember. Pistolkers was her married name, but then she had a title, Countess so-and-so. Oh, anyway, Bodya. Bodya was, he was 18, I think, 18. And, bad age to be when a war starts. And his name was Vladimir, and the diminutive of Vladimir in Russian is Volodya. And so my theory, Bodya is not a name that exists in Russian, so and it's not a diminutive of Vladimir, usually. I've never heard of it aside from him. And so my guess is that as a small child, he couldn't say Volodya, so it came out as Bodya. Dmitri calls him Bodka with the K instead of the Y. You would really need a native speaker to unfold that for you fully. It can be, I believe, kind of a pejorative if you use it for an adult, but it can also be an endearment when you use it for a child or a family member. So Dmitri could have been called Mitka, but as far as I know, he never was, or even called Mitya. But there's a slight difference between using the YA form and the KA form. Okay. Yeah, Misha. Presumably that was the Tsar's younger brother, Grand Duke Mikhail Alexandrovich, which raises the question, was that in any way awkward for either Dmitri or Misha? I don't think Dmitri would have thought twice about it, but I wonder if it was for Misha and if he knew that Dmitri was kind of pursuing his wife, or at the beginning of doing so. Okay, so that's that. Next time, what do we have? We have a new person entering the scene, and apparently she and Dmitri are at this point rather fond of each other, and that person is Ducky, Kirill's wife. We've been talking about her in 1935 and especially in 1939. Now we're talking about her, and in 1921 when she actually threatened, or didn't threaten to do it herself, but told Dmitri that he should be shot, and she was, incensed with him. And she's incensed with someone in 1915 too, but not with Dmitri, and we'll find out who it is. And then when we return to 1935, we're starting with another of Dmitri's speeches, and I've already forgotten the name of it. It is a very interesting one. It is called "We Will Not Rest on Our Laurels," which is a quote from the speech given at the Young Russia Assembly in Nice in August 1935. And we have more of Dmitri's opinions about things, which could be quite strong, and more of his, I'm not going to use the A/K word, or A-K word, but more of his sort of fawning over, in this instance, Kazanbek. And, unusual for him, but yeah, that's what he's doing. All right. I prolonged this one a little too much, but that notwithstanding, I hope to see you next time. Bye.